Welcome back to the F&B Railroad. Welcome back to the F&B Railroad. I am David, your host, and in this episode, which is going to be update number 42, we will talk about, or I should say, I will show you what I'm doing in the corner by the coal mine. I decided to do some backdrop work and some landscaping, and I think it's made some big changes. So without me babbling on forever and boring you to death, let's get into this. So this is the next area I need to start working on to get myself out of this back corner. As you can see, I need to carry the backdrop around. I also have some pink foam. It needs to get painted and whatnot. And now this is a lift out piece. So I gotta make sure I can still lift it out when I'm done. And I seem to have a little hole back here. So I need to fill that in, and I think I'm gonna put some more rock work in this area along here to fill that in. So that's where I'm headed next. So here you can see I made some molds of rocks and I've glued them onto the layout. Next thing I got to do is go in and fill in some of these holes with plaster, blend the rocks together. The other thing I did is right up here. You can see I filled in my hole that I had. So that's where we're at there. I've also painted the removable section for the top here. Now you can see I got the mine out of the way, and what I need to do is to put plaster in here and here, here, and around these pieces to blend them in and make them look more like one cohesive rock. Now to start this, I just got some plain water in a bottle, and I'm going to spray down the rocks. That gets everything good and wet so the plaster doesn't dry too fast. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of saran wrap on top of this removable piece, and we'll put that back in place. Come on. This way, no plaster will stick to the other piece. Now I'll go mix up a batch of plaster and start putting it in. Now I got my plaster ready. Hit this one more time with some more water. Now here I'm just shaping plaster to get it to blend in to the rocks. Let it look a little bit more natural. Now plaster's on there. I just got a regular brush. I'll brush it off, get rid of whatever crumbs there are. Next, I'll probably take a vacuum and vacuum up all the crumbs that have fallen. And there you have it. We'll let that dry, and then I can paint it to match the rest of the rock work. So I decided to work on my backdrop to get the trees and whatnot finished off on the backdrop. As you can see, it stops right here, and this lines up. This is the corner area, and it continues on onto the next piece of backdrop. Now my backdrop is styrofoam board. As you can see here, there's 3 layers. 1, 2, and then a third over here. And I just put these together to make a lightweight backdrop. Painted my sky where I had to. And the rest of the pink foam is all landmass, which is behind the mountains or at the edge of the fascia or whatever, to finish off the backdrop. And like I said, I want to finish off the trees. So what I've done for all of my backdrop is I buy this kind of a backdrop from trainjunkies.com, and I do what he says not to do. I glue them to my backdrop. So what I'll do is I'll cut a small piece of this off. I'll trim off the background sky, and I'll blend it in, cut it to follow the foam, and then I'll take some white glue and I'll glue it on, and I'll actually bend this piece around the corner. And let me zoom in a little bit. There you can see right there, I marked it where the edge of the other one was, because I know I'm going to put trees over top of that, but that gives me a reference where things start, and I can blend the 2 pieces of backdrop together to make them look as cohesive as possible, and they'll keep going on. So here I have a piece of the backdrop, and I'm going to cut it to fit into the scene here, and then fold it around. So let me get that cut and sized and fit, and we'll fit it in. So now you see the piece of backdrop I've cut off, and I just put a brand new blade in my X-Acto knife, and I'm gonna go and cut around these trees, and I just try and get close. I'm not worried if I cut off any little details, because I can go back with some paint and touch the little details in. But what I do find is having a good pair of magnifying glasses so I can see a little bit better. So I'll turn this sure I'm getting everything cut loose. Like I said, if I cut off the tips, I'm not worried about it. I can go back in with some green paint and touch them up and make them look a little bit better when it's done. But there. Okay, what do we got? What do we got? Catch over here. Done there. Done there. There you have it. Now we'll go and get some glue and glue this onto the backdrop. Okay, now this is the piece of backdrop I got that is gonna go over here on the backdrop itself. And what I gotta do is I gotta put white glue on it. So I got my white glue, and Train Junkie says not to do this, and the reason is this is printed on straight paper. And if you do too big of a piece, it will bubble the paper. So that's why I've been cutting it into small sections to glue them on, and I can also work up and down with my terrain by gluing it on that way. So what I'll do now is I'll just take the white glue. I got a cheap brush here. I work my way off the paper, make sure I get all the way to the edge. Now that that's done, let me move the camera. And we'll take the piece. Lay it on the backdrop. Position it where I wanted it. Fold it over around the corner. And press everybody down in. And that's how I put on my pieces of backdrop. Now, let me see if I can reposition things. Now that that piece is on that corner piece, I placed it up against the other one. And what I'm going to want to do is cut this piece off so I can follow my terrain and find a spot where this looks like it lines up well enough that it'll work. So I'd have to either bring that way down like that so that blends in nicely there, which I probably will do. That'll probably work out pretty good. The only thing I'll have to do is I'll either have to cut this cloud out. I kind of want to try and use the cloud. I mean, if I can use that whole piece, and you follow over here, and I come in with the next piece. I might be able to make those clouds work to my advantage until I get to a point that I want to cut them out completely. But that's how I'm going to work this all the way down. So this is how the backdrop is looking. Up in place, back on the layout. You can see it goes from that piece that it ended at around the corner and all the way down to that point. I've also painted all the pink styrofoam. So here it is, working on some trees, some bushes, reinforcing one of my hydrangea trees with some matte medium to give it a little bit of strength. Of course, up here we got the start of some pine trees. Trying something with some lilac stems. See if that makes out some pine trees. And this is the top of the coal mine there, the top of the mountain. I've been doing trees and bushes, fill it all up. I got more to fill in. I got to fill this all the way to the end with trees. But you can see I got my trees going. I got some older trees that are in there, like this one back here with the red on it, and this one over here with the orange on it, and then some newer trees. And I think it's made a pretty good build out of trees. And there's the trees on the removable piece for the top of the mountain for the coal mine. You can also see I got my rocks painted that I had put in right there in front of that removable piece. And I got the bushes, I got some bushes over here on the side, and that's the backdrop coming around the corner. And then we had added on, and it runs down this way. So that's the end of number 42. I hope you like it. I did do some work in there, and I think it made big changes up in that corner. It's been sitting that way for a couple of years now, and now it's got backdrop, and we got trees up on top of the mountain. Still got some landscaping to do. Got the rocks all blended in and painted, and they actually look pretty good to the old rocks, which have been painted for 2 or 3 years now. So that all came together good. You know, I really appreciate everybody who watches, everybody who gives me a comment. I try and answer all the comments, and if there's any questions, answer those questions as well. And, you know, if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you subscribe, hit the bell button. That way you'll get notifications of when I put out more content in the future. And, you know, leave a comment, share it with your friends. And in the next episode, we'll continue on with some more rock work. Hopefully getting close to finishing out that canyon for the coal mine. And as I always say, keep on modeling.